Hello everyone, myself Garima. This session is for GNM second year, and in today's session we're gonna talk about the topic malabsorption syndrome. Firstly, we will discuss about physiology of digestive system. The digestive system consists of the alimentary canal and its associated glands. The various organs of the human digestive system in sequence are mouth, esophagus, which is also known as food pipe, stomach, small intestine, and large intestine. The glands which are associated with the human digestive system and form a part of the human digestive system are salivary glands, liver, and pancreas. The human alimentary canal, which runs from mouth to anus, is about 9 meters long tube. The ducts of various glands open into the alimentary canal and pour the secretions of the digestive juices into the alimentary canal. Now, the steps of nutrition in human beings are there are 5 steps of nutrition in human beings, which are as ingestion, digestion, then absorption, and then assimilation, and last one is egestion. First, we will talk about ingestion. In ingestion, the human beings have a special organ for the ingestion of food. It is called mouth. So, in human beings, food is ingested through the mouth. The food is put into the mouth with the help of hands. Second step is digestion. In this, in human beings, the digestion of food begins in the mouth itself. In fact, the digestion of food starts as soon as we put food into our mouth. The mouth cavity, which is also known as buccal cavity, contains teeth, tongue, and salivary glands. The teeth cut the food into small pieces, chew, and grind it. So, the teeth help in physical digestion. The salivary glands in our mouth produce saliva. Our tongue helps in mixing this saliva with food. Saliva is a watery liquid, so it wets the food into our mouth. The wetted food can be swallowed more easily. Many times we have observed that when we see or eat a food which we really like, our mouth waters. This watering of mouth is due to the production of saliva by the salivary glands in the mouth. The salivary glands help in chemical digestion by secreting enzymes. The human saliva contains an enzyme called salivary amylase which digests the starch present in food into sugar. The digestion of starch begins in the mouth itself. Since the food remains in the mouth only for a short time, so the digestion of food remains incomplete in mouth. The slightly digested food in the mouth is swallowed by the tongue and goes down the food pipe called esophagus. The esophagus carries food to the stomach. The stomach is a J-shaped organ present on the left side of the abdomen, as you are seeing in this image. The food is further digested in the stomach. The food is churned in the stomach for about 3 hours. During this time, the food breaks down into still smaller pieces and forms a semi-solid paste. Now, from the stomach, the partially digested food enters the small intestine. The small intestine is the largest part of the alimentary canal. It is about 6.5 meters long in an adult man. Through through the small intestine is very long. It is called small intestine because it is very narrow. The small intestine is arranged in the form of coil in our belly. Now, the small intestine in human beings is a site of complete digestion of food like carbohydrates, proteins, and fats. This happens as first as the small intestine receives the secretions of two glands, that is liver and pancreas. Now the liver secretes bile. Bile is a greenish yellow liquid made in the liver which is normally stored in the gallbladder. Then bile is alkaline and contains salts which help to emulsify or break the fats or lipids present in the food. Bile performs two functions. First is makes the acidic food coming from the stomach alkaline so that the pancreatic enzymes can act on it. And second is bile salts break the fats present in the food into small globules, making it easy for the enzymes to act and digest them. Now the second is the walls of small intestine contains glands which secretes intestinal juice. The intestinal juice contains a number of enzymes which complete the digestion of complex carbohydrates into glucose, proteins into amino acids, and fat into fatty acids and glycerol. Now the third is absorption. Third step is absorption. After digestion, the molecules of food become so small that they can pass through the walls of the small intestine and go into our blood. This is called absorption. The small intestine is the main reason for the absorption of digested food. In fact, the small intestine is especially adapted for absorbing the digested food. The inner surface of the small intestine has millions of tiny finger like projections called villi. The presence of villi gives the inner walls of the small intestine a very large surface area, and the large surface area of small intestine helps in the rapid absorption of digested food. Now the digested food which is absorbed through the walls of the small intestine goes into our blood. Now the fourth step is assimilation. In assimilation, the blood carries digested and dissolved food to all parts of the body where it comes assimilated as part of the cells. This assimilated food is used by the body cells for obtaining energy as well as for the growth and repair of the body. The energy is released by the oxidation of assimilated food in the cells during respiration. Now, the digested food which is not used by our body immediately is stored in the liver in the form of carbohydrate called glycogen. Now, the last step is digestion. In this, a part of the food which we eat cannot be digested by our body. This undigested food cannot be absorbed in the small intestine. So the undigested food passes from the small intestine into the wider tube, which is called as large intestine. The walls of the large intestine absorb most of the water from the undigested food. Because of this, the undigested part of food becomes almost solid. The last part of the large intestine, called rectum, stores this undigested food for some time, and when we go to the toilet, then this undigested food is passed out from our body through anus as feces or stool. Okay, so this is all about the physiology of digestive system. Now, the introduction of malabsorption syndrome. malabsorption syndrome एक ग्रुप ऑफ डिसऑर्डर है जिसमें क्या होता है, जिसमें डाइटरी कॉन्स्टिट्यूएंट्स एब्जॉर्ब ही नहीं होते हैं एंड एक्सेसिव लॉस ऑफ न्यूट्रिएंट्स होता है इन द स्टूल बिकॉज ऑफ डिफेक्ट इन डाइजेशन और अ म्यूकोजल एबनॉर्मैलिटी और लिम्फेटिक ऑब्स्ट्रक्शन. Malabsorption syndrome is characterized by the first is chronic diarrhea, second is abdominal distension and third one is failure to thrive. ये जो क्लिनिकल फीचर्स है वो क्यों डेवलप होते हैं, वो डेवलप इसलिए होते हैं क्योंकि पुअर एब्जॉर्प्शन ऑफ न्यूट्रिएंट्स होता है इन द स्मॉल इंटेस्टाइन. और न्यूट्रिएंट में सबसे ज़्यादा क्या एब्जॉर्ब नहीं होता है इस कंडीशन में, मैल एब्जॉर्प्शन सिंड्रोम में फैट्स एब्जॉर्ब नहीं होते हैं और फैट के अलावा और अदर न्यूट्रिएंट्स लाइक कार्बोहाइड्रेट्स, मिनरल्स एंड प्रोटीन का पुअर एब्जॉर्प्शन होता है. कॉजेज़ क्या हैं? कॉजेज़ आर गॉल ब्लैडर एंड पेनक्रियाटिक डिजीज़, lymphatic obstruction, vascular impairment and bowel resection. What will be the clinical manifestation? First is chronic diarrhea, abdominal distension, failure to thrive, flatulence, anorexia, fatigue and loss of weight. Chronic diarrhea is a main symptom of malabsorption syndrome. Next is diagnostic evaluation. In this, first is history collection, then physical examination, then repeated routine stool examination, then fecal fat studies and intestinal biopsy. And what will be the management? Management depend करता है underlying cause पे and promotion of adequate nutrition intake पे. Then अगर बेबी को डायरिया है तो वो हम सिम्टोमेटिक कंट्रोल करेंगे डायरिया को. देन इफ़ द बेबी इज़ हैविंग अ सीलिएक डिजीज़. व्हाट इज़ अ सीलिएक डिजीज़? सीलिएक डिजीज़ एक गैस्ट्रोइंटेस्टाइनल डिसऑर्डर है जिसमें बेबी को ग्लूटेन एक प्रोटीन होता है उससे एलर्जी होती है. और ग्लूटेन किस में मिलता है? सीरियल एंड ग्रेन्स में. तो व्हेन एवर द बेबी ईट्स द सीरियल एंड ग्रेन्स देन उसको क्रॉनिक डायरिया होता है. तो अब क्रॉनिक डायरिया होगा तो जो भी बेबी जो भी फूड लेगा है ना उसमें जो भी न्यूट्रिएंट्स होंगे तो वो एब्जॉर्ब नहीं होंगे. ठीक है, विच लीड्स टू अ मैल एब्जॉर्प्शन सिंड्रोम. तो सीलिएक अगर बेबी को सीलिएक डिजीज़ है तो हम जो उसको डाइट प्रोवाइड करेंगे वो ग्लूटेन फ्री डाइट प्रोवाइड करेंगे है ना. लाइक डाइट में उसको राइस या फिर मेज़ देंगे. Then second is cystic fibrosis. In cystic fibrosis, what is cystic fibrosis? Cystic fibrosis एक इनहेरिटेड डिसऑर्डर है जो कि डैमेज करती है लंग्स को, डाइजेस्टिव सिस्टम को एंड अदर ऑर्गन्स इन द बॉडी को. सिस्टिक फाइब्रोसिस एक ऐसी कंडीशन है जो कि अफेक्ट्स करती है सेल्स, उन सेल्स को जो सेल्स प्रोड्यूस करते हैं म्यूकस, स्वेट एंड डाइजेस्टिव जूसेस को. नॉर्मली जब ये सेल्स म्यूकस, स्वेट एंड डाइजेस्टिव जूस सिक्रीट करते हैं तो वो जो सिक्रीशन होता है वो थिन एंड स्लीपरी होता है. बट इन सिस्टिक फाइब्रोसिस जब ये सारी सेल्स म्यूकस, स्वेट एंड डाइजेस्टिव जूसेस सिक्रीट करती हैं तो वो जो सिक्रीशन होता है वो स्टिकी एंड थिक होता है. ओके तो इसमें क्या होगा? इन सिस्टिक फाइब्रोसिस द डाइट इज़ इंट्रोड्यूस्ड ग्रेजुअली विथ सिंपल न्यूट्रिएंट्स विच आर टॉलरेटेड. देन ब्रीदिंग एक्सरसाइज के लिए हम एनकरेज करेंगे उसके पेरेंट्स को एंड बेबी को टू प्रिवेंट पल्मोनरी कॉम्प्लिकेशंस. देन डाइट हमें प्लान करनी चाहिए विद फूड आइटम्स रिच इन प्रोटीन एंड शुगर. Vegetable fats, which is rich in polyunsaturated fatty acids, are preferred to the animal fats. Then pancreatic supplements, antacids, sodium bicarbonate and antihistamine हम administer करेंगे. Then suitable antibiotics, additional salt during summer months and prostaglandin analog are used. Then next is nursing management. In this, improvement of nutritional status by appropriate diet planning and supplementation of deficient nutrients or substituting them. Then restoration of fluid and electrolyte balance by oral and parenteral therapy. Then continuous monitoring and recording of patient's condition. Then relief of pain by medications, Fowler's position and comfort. Now the analgesics, antifluctuants and antidiarrheal agents are administered as prescribed. Then maintenance of skin integrity, especially of perianal area, by drying, application of ointment locally. Then health education to the parent about general cleanliness, nutrition, hydration, danger signs, home care and follow-up for necessary medical help. Then relief of fear and anxiety about long-term illness and hospitalization by appropriate explanation, reassurance and necessary support is needed for the parents. Thank you.